In 2016, there were 2,816 apparent opioid-related deaths in Canada, making the annual opioid-related death rate 7.8 per 100,000 and over 15 per 100,000 in BC. This number increases every year. What are opioids? Opioids are a class of drugs that include natural, synthetic, and semi-synthetic narcotics. Some of the most known opioids are heroin, a semi-synthetic drug, fentanyl, a fully synthetic drug, and prescribed pain relievers, such as oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, and many others. Opioid pain relievers are generally safe when taken for a short time and as prescribed by a doctor, but because they produce euphoria in addition to pain relief, they can be misused. Opioids affect body functions. Opioids act on the neurons in the brain, temporarily reducing the effectiveness of message transmission, thus reducing pain and anxiety. They create a sense of numbness in the body and mind. High doses can create short-lived feeling of euphoria and drowsiness. Naturally, these effects can be addictive. Obviously, opioid abuse and addiction can have negative mental and physical effects, such as nausea, vomiting, weakened immune system, slow breathing rate, risk of choking, and more. Plus, the consumption of such drug can increase the risk of contacting HIV or other diseases, common with non-sterile intravenous injections. Fentanyl is a man-made opioid that is more toxic than most of the other opioids and can be prescribed by a physician to help control severe pain. Fentanyl is around 20 to 40 times more toxic than heroin and 50 to 100 times more toxic than morphine, which makes the risk of accidental overdose higher. Increasingly, fentanyl is being detected in overdose deaths in BC. Shipped illegally from Asia, fentanyl and other drugs are being sold on the streets. In 2016, BC Provincial Health Officer declared a public health emergency in response to the rise in drug overdoses and deaths. As can be seen from the graph, illicit drug deaths in BC have increased each year since 2012, and by mid-2015, rates of illicit drug deaths surpassed those seen in 1997 and 1998, when a public health emergency was declared due to HIV infection rates and illicit drug fatalities. The most recent epidemic is characterized by the increase of proportion of deaths in which fentanyl has been detected. Fentanyl was detected in 5% of illicit drug death in 2012 and has increased annually, reaching 60% in 2016.
This is an example of some counterfeit OxyContin pills that contain fentanyl. The other version that we see is powders. And this is an example of fentanyl powder, a kilo.
And that's a kilo of pure fentanyl?
Yes, it's enough to make 1 million pills.
So how much fentanyl does it take to kill someone?
As little as 0.5 milligram.
So let's do the math. 0.5 milligram, that means that that's enough to kill 2 million people right there in that bag.
Yeah.
So that is how strong it is. Where is this stuff being manufactured?
In China. And it's coming into Canada through our mail system. We have millions of pieces of mail that come in from China every week. And to go through every one of them is pretty difficult. I think it's only a matter of time before it shows up in other parts of the world. It's already all through the United States.
This is a long overdue action for government to take.
It's a first in Canada, a provincial government taking the makers of opioids to court.
Pharmaceutical companies must take responsibility for their role and put the lives of people before profit.
From addictions treatment to emergency response, the costs to the healthcare system are substantial. BC wants to be compensated, but won't give an exact figure.
We can't yet know precisely the financial costs incurred by British Columbia as a result of the actions of these firms. The costs are rising every day.
The lawsuit was initiated in August 2018 by BC Attorney General David Eby. The lawsuit is against 49 pharmaceutical companies and retailers linked to the opioid crisis, accusing the companies of downplaying the risk of their drug when advertising them to physicians. The lawsuit seeks only to recover costs to the public health care system, such as addiction treatment, emergency response, and hospital expenses. Purdue Pharma, one of the companies named in the lawsuit, deny any wrongdoing by stating that the opioid crisis is a complex system with many factors in play, such as both prescription and illegal opioids, and that furthermore, all stakeholders must be held responsible to provide practical and sustainable solutions to the ongoing crisis. There has been speculation over whether the lawsuit will have an impact on the overdose crisis, since it is one that needs an urgent response, whereas lawsuits tend to drag on for decades and could potentially be diverting resources away from the frontline response solutions.